Okay.
Mics are hot. Mics are hot. Mics are hot.
Testing.
Gulfstream Park. What's the? Is there a jingle?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Gulfstream Park. I think it's like at Gulfstream
Maybe
Park.
if you come up with one and sing it, it will become a jingle. Who's the blame?
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas here at Gulfstream Park. We got a tree. We got some lights.
It's always weird seeing a tree in front of palm trees.
It's so big.
It is. Is it a real tree?
They went with blue. Oh, well, actually, I don't know. It's really nicely shaped, if it's real.
Okay.
It's really nice. All right, Dolphins fans, if you are here and you are ready, we are going to take your questions live after the show for X and Omar Overtime. We've got a packed show, 4 and 4. We're going to talk about why it's no time to panic, which I feel like we talk about every week. We're also going to talk about...
Do we panic every week?
Well, it's funny because I feel like we say it's no time to panic and then we panic.
Okay, all right.
But no, really. We're going to talk about this new guy, Stirrup.
Zach Stirrup.
Zach Stirrup. And whether or not, Kenyon Drake, Damian Williams, whether that's the real answer.
Are we live? We're ready?
I think we're ready.
Okay, give me 1 sec. Give me 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Let me get this ready so I can. Okay. Okay. Hold on 1 second, 1 second.
There's a phone. There's a phone.
What do it mean there's a phone?
You have a phone. 1 second. We have
Yes.
a phone.
I need to pull up the X's and Omar stuff. Okay, latest. All right. Somebody else using X's and Omar? Oh, oops. All right, let's rock.
We're live. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the mid-season edition of X's and Omar, presented by Gulfstream Park, alongside Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln, and we are live here at Gulfstream Park. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Tree is up, lights are up.
It feels weird to look at the tree in the middle of palm trees.
I know, but it's so nice, right? Doesn't it get you?
It's very tall.
Way before Thanksgiving, it gets you in the feeling like it's the holidays.
I'm actually going to do a tree check to see if it's real.
All right, there's a lady over there. We can ask her, but we'll do it after the show. This is a great spot, Gulfstream Park here in Hallandale Beach, to do your Christmas shopping or just come get a bite to eat with the great Yard House. Il Gusto is right next to us, so you can come and watch the show, get a bite to eat, and just enjoy and get ready for the holidays. Dolphins are hoping that they have something to cheer about this holiday season. They are 4 and 4, exactly where they were last year at this point, but Omar, this certainly feels a little bit different having lost 2 straight.
The negative Nancy's of Dolphin fans, and you know there are a lot of those.
Almost all of them at this point right now.
It's the way of life when you're a Dolphin fan.
Sure.
You made the playoffs. Look at it from their standpoint. You made the playoffs last year with a team that was resurgent. They won 9 of 11. But truth be told, you have the exact same record at this point in the season that you had last year. The problem is the team is not playing well. And I wrote a column in today's Sun Sentinel which explains to Dolphin fans, you should be thankful that you're 4 and 4, still relevant, 500 at the midseason point. For these reasons, you haven't played good football yet. You haven't played an entire collective team game, which is how you won 9 of 11 last year. And the most important caveat is you're on pace to have the worst offense in franchise history. Not the worst offense in recent history, in franchise history. 52 years the Dolphins have played football, including the inaugural years. You're on pace to have a worse year than that.
Yeah, well, I guess there are some reasons of optimism. For the last 2 of the last 3 games have been the Dolphins' best offensive games. Of course, it was circled around their worst
The
offensive
troubling
game,
part of this that I find, and I'm encouraged by what I saw with the Oakland game. From this standpoint, you put up 24 points. You had a productive game from the backs, Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams. 3 touchdowns from Jay Cutler, who's playing with broken ribs. The offensive line only allowed 1 sack. Yes, there were 11 penalties, but you should be encouraged by what you saw from the offensive side. Defense, they fell off a little bit, and that's going to happen when injuries take place, and that's really what's happened with your defensive line. But offensively, you put up 24 points, you should be good as a team. And that's a step in the right direction. And hopefully they continue to make continuous progressive steps forward.
And one of the points that you make, which is true, the opening week bye has seemed to derail the Tampa Bay Bucks, but it seems to so they're 2-6 now. Dolphins doing much better, 4-4 in the aftermath. Of that.
And if you really think about this Dolphins team, they could easily be a 1-win team or a 2-win team. Chargers missed 3 field goals. They didn't even have an adequate kicker. If they did, maybe you would lose that game. Matt Ryan and McCown, Josh McCown. 2 fourth-quarter late interceptions that seals the game for you. Then what was the other win? When you're playing Tennessee, you're playing
Castle.
You're playing without Marcus Mariota. Okay, how hard is that to beat Matt Castle? So you should consider yourself fortunate, and there are a lot of positives that are coming. T.J. McDonald's coming. Ted Larson is coming. You still haven't had a good game from Jarvis Landry or Kenny Stills, and hell, Devontae Parker's back.
Right.
You should have reason to be optimistic.
All right. Well, let's start and talk about the reasons of optimism around the running backs, and take our question from Luke Fader, who says, "Did Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams show enough to justify the Jay Ajayi trade?"
Well, I don't think anything is going to justify the Jay Ajayi trade because that's a long-term view decision. 4th-round pick was about what Jay Ajayi was worth. And yes, he's going to be productive with the Eagles, who might make it all the way to the Super Bowl with Jay Ajayi. But is he going to be productive with the Dolphins in the long term? The Dolphins felt like it was a wiser decision to invest in Kenyon Drake and invest in Damian Williams. Yes, they aren't the runners that Jay Ajayi is, but they gave you a lot more from a pass-catching standpoint. They gained 83 yards on 16 carries, and they caught 12 passes for 82 yards. So collectively, you got 1,600 yards from your backs. That's a pretty good number and a pretty good ratio in my mind. And if that Damian Williams play in the 4th quarter didn't come back because of a Jarvis Landry hold, which I didn't think was much of a hold, that would have been a tremendous performance from the backs. So it's not going to make sense to you in the short term, but in the long term, this franchise is better off because their pass-catching ability opens up the offense for everybody else.
Well, I was going to say, it's not just by a coincidence, I wouldn't say, that Jay Cutler went 13 for his first 13, had his best game, over 300 yards for the first time, and they don't have this ball-demanding, give me the rock as much as I possibly can back.
I don't think that was the issue. Okay. I think the issue was, if you look at Jay Cutler's career at Denver and you look at his career with the Bears, 40% of his passes go to the tailbacks on checkdown plays. Matt Forte has made a living off Jay Cutler passes. That wasn't a part of the offense with Jay Ajayi. Now it's a part of the offense, and I don't think it was a coincidence that Jay Cutler finally looked comfortable, because this was probably the first game throughout his entire career here, his 7-game presence, that I felt like he looked comfortable and looked like the quarterback that we've seen with the Chicago Bears. Now, Jay Cutler's also known for getting big plays.
Right.
When we start to see that, then we can say, okay, he's arrived. I think Jay Cutler's a lot better than he's shown. And I think that getting the backs to catch passes is a key ingredient.
And remarkable, he did that with broken ribs, too.
Yeah.
All right, next question from South Beach Kip. The run defense has been questionable recently. What has changed?
I think the biggest issue is injuries. When you look at William Hayes, battling a hamstring injury, didn't practice all week last week. You look at Andre Branch. He's got a growing issue. He played last week, but he wasn't that impactful. He wasn't as impactful as he usually is. I don't think he has the burst or speed to get sacks. That, to me, is why you're sort of starting to see a little bit rundown in terms of how well teams are running against the Dolphins. And Charles Harris, he's got to play better. Terrence Fede, he's got to play better. You've got to get more from your backup ends. And probably Cameron Wake has to get a more active role. But if Charles Harris steps up and gives you 10 more quality snaps, remember the key word is quality snaps. I don't think he's that good stopping the run, but if he gives you 10 more key quality snaps, I think you should be where you need to be from a defensive standpoint.
All right, next question from Jason. Do you feel the game against Oakland is the best the Fins can be this year?
Wow, that's a good question because it comes.
I think he means from my offense, right? He's talking
yeah,
specifically about the offense.
No, the defense, we've seen them play better. That might have been their second worst game of the year behind the Saints' performance.
All right. The Baltimore performance was great.
Oh, yeah. No, well, 14 points from the offense, pick sixes. Yeah.
But Alex Collins really gutted that team running the ball.
Excellent point. So it's the third worst performance of this defense. I think as the season wears on, injuries impact both teams.
Sure.
And the Dolphins right now, the injuries, you've got Jawan James with this hamstring injury, but you also have William Hayes with a hamstring injury. You also have Andre Branch with a groin injury. Kiko Alonso, he always battles some injury issues later on in the season. I think there's probably a little bit of wear down taking place. But I think that this defense has the potential to play better and will play better moving forward.
And do you believe that this is just the beginning for the offense? I think that's the real question. What it needs to be, right? That's where the Dolphins are at.
It just has to get to respectable.
Right.
It hasn't even been respectable. I mean, the Dolphins have a 63-point differential for the season. For you to have a 4-4 record with a 63-point differential, that's tremendous. That's like literally you're down 8 points. I'm not good at math.
Sure.
But eight points a game from an offensive standpoint. If you can get one more touchdown and one more field goal per week, I think you have a chance to be a decent offense.
Losing 40-0 is going to skew. It's going to skew those numbers just a little bit.
Okay, it does. Yes, you're right. It does. But they're bad. You're not even averaging 16 points a game.
Right.
You have to do better than that.
Right.
The average NFL team scores 24 points a game. Why are you not average?
For all sorts of reasons why we've been detailing it this year. All right, time to play a new game here on X's and Omar, presented by Gulfstream Park. Come down here and join us. Do you know they've got a place here, Omar, where you can just rent a karaoke room? It's called Plug In. It's right on the second floor up here. It's pretty cool. Are you a big karaoke guy?
I have done karaoke.
What's the last karaoke song?
Bobby Brown. It's always going to be Bobby Brown.
My Prerogative?
I'm a huge Bobby Brown fan. I think I did perform My Prerogative. Yes, Bobby Brown's the king of R&B.
What would we have to do? What would we have to bet for us to get video of you doing karaoke to This Is How We Do It?
If you produce the loser of this season in terms of prediction must do a karaoke performance on video.
Who'd you pick last week?
I picked Oakland last week.
I don't like that idea. All right, let's play a new game here on X's and Omar. We're at the mid-season point, so we can take all the stats and try to project them through the first year. We're going to play over/under.
All right.
So first off, let's talk about Jay Cutler. 87.4 passer rating. It's his average, but is that going to be his average for the rest of the season? 87.4. You taking the over or the under?
I'm taking the over.
Okay. From
this standpoint, he's better than that throughout his career. He's a seasoned veteran. He's starting to play a little bit more comfortable. We haven't seen when's the last time you've seen a Jarvis Landry big play? I'm not talking about a touchdown. A Jarvis Landry big play. Have you seen a Kenny Stills big play outside of that accidental catch that he had against, I believe it was the Jets?
Right.
We haven't seen the best from this offense. I think Jay Cutler can improve on his completion percentage, especially with the backs catching passes now. I think Jay Cutler can definitely improve on his yards per attempt. Right now he's at 5.9, which is the lowest he's been in his entire NFL career. And I do believe his 10-to-5 interception to turnover ratio will improve because we don't see Jay Cutler throwing questionable passes.
A lot of that is tied into how much time is the offensive line going to give him, right?
Ooh. Good point by you.
All right. Next one, over/under. The Dolphins will average 77.6 rushing yards. That's what they have right now. It ranks Miami 30th in the NFL. Is that what they're going to average the rest of the way? Over or under?
I'm going to go with over. From this standpoint, Kenyon Drake, he showed you a big play against Oakland. He can do that if he gets adequate blocking. That's been his MO throughout his career. And Damian Williams, I swear, I promise you, Damian Williams is a better runner than what he's shown throughout his Dolphins career. It's there. He's just got to get greased up and get comfortable and get going and have familiarity with the line. So I believe that they're going to be into the 90 yards, rushing yards per game average.
All right, that sounds good. I would make the point that I don't know if it matters as much. With these guys, if they're going to stay this active in the passing game, if you're looking for, if they're at over under 130 total yards together, then it kind of doesn't matter whether or not they rush for 70 or all that.
I will tell you that it does from this standpoint. During Adam Gaze's run as the Dolphins head coach, he has a perfect record, no losses when the Dolphins rush for over 100 yards. Now, a lot of the times they're running when they're leading, but let's not pretend like the run game doesn't open up the play action passing game. Run game is important.
Fair enough. Next question. Miami is the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored a rushing touchdown. I'm betting you know that already. That's a stat we all have got kind of memorized here. It will finish the year with 8 for the season. Over or under for 8 rushing touchdowns in the last 8 games.
I'm going to go with under.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going to go with under is Adam Gase sticks to what's working. Right now, they're one of the better teams in the NFL in the red zone. They rarely get there, but they are good. They're effective in the red zone. I think they're converting like 70% of their red zone opportunities, turning them into touchdowns, and he's doing that with the passing game. Jarvis Landry, you know Jarvis needs to eat, especially if he's going to get that big fat contract. Adam Gase is known throughout his career of taking care of the guys who are hitting free agency. So I think you're going to see a lot of passes to Jarvis Landry in the red zone. He's always going to get Julius Thomas involved in the red zone. Congratulations to him. He actually showed up for the Dolphins season, week 8, but welcome. And I just think the passing game in the red zone is going to be key. So if the running backs are going to score touchdowns, it's going to be on big runs.
And I would say, too, if you were to ask Adam Gase about that stat, and I'm sure there are plenty of offensive stats that really, really bother him.
No.
The no rushing touchdowns is not one that bothers him as much. As long as the red zone percentage is good,
efficiency.
it's fine.
It's about efficiency, and teams haven't figured out how to stop their short passes in the red zone.
All right, next question. The Dolphins will produce 32 sacks for the season. That averages out to 2 a game. They have 16 right now. So over under 32 sacks for the season.
I'm going under. And while 32 is not impressive, and 2 a game is definitely not what you want to average about 3 a game, I just don't see, you play Tom Brady twice.
Yeah.
Dose. You're not touching Tom Brady. So you can just put those games in a pile over there. And then you play Tyrod Taylor twice.
Good at avoiding pass rush, for sure.
Athletic quarterback, mobile, gets out of the pocket. Cam Newton, once this Monday. You're not getting 32 sacks.
Fair enough. That's a good point when you look at who they've got left.
You got to look at the opponents.
Dolphins are presently holding opponents to 94 rushing yards per game. That ranks 7th in the NFL. Over, under them staying at that for the average.
I'm going to go under. And this is the biggest issue for me with the Dolphins defense. We've talked about the injuries that are sort of watering down the defensive front. When you water down the defensive front, who does the pressure come on? It comes on the linebackers.
For sure.
Kiko Alonso, Lawrence Timmons are both playing well. And Ray Malaluga, man, did he take down Marshawn Lynch a couple of times? Those were 2 big 260-pound bulls hitting one another. And it was impressive to watch. But throughout the history of my decade covering the Dolphins, there's always an injury at the linebacking core. And I know you suffered one early in the season with Raekwon McMillan, but I'm talking about an injury impacted by play. And Kiko Alonso, hate to say it, want to knock on wood, he's going to go down at some point. And then you're going to have to make do with Mike Hull. No disrespect to Mike, but he's not Kiko Alonso. So I'm going to go with that's going to be over. They're going to be over that number.
All right. And let's have a question about Jarvis Landry. So he just set the NFL record, most receptions in an NFL for a player in his first 4 seasons. He's now at 56 catches, 430 yards. He has 4 touchdowns. He will produce his 3rd 1,000-yard season. So he needs 560 down the stretch.
I'm going with under.
He needs to average 70 the rest of the way.
I'm going with under from this standpoint. Now that Devontae Parker's back.
That's a good point.
And playing well. Devontae had his best game of the season last week. We saw that impressive one-handed catch, which he didn't even think he made. The kid's got talent. He's got potential. I've always said this, and I truly do believe this. He's the most talented Dolphins receiver from a skill standpoint. The problem is he doesn't have Jarvis Landry's work ethic. He doesn't have Jarvis Landry's durability. He doesn't have Jarvis Landry's toughness. If you combine them both, you'd have Julio Jones. But I will say this about Jarvis. His opportunities are going to go down, but I think his efficiency and completion and yards per average completion in terms of his yards he's averaging per reception, I think that's going to improve. But I will not give him put him at 1,000.
And he might set the record for I don't know what his record is for number of touchdowns in a season.
Oh, he'll
over his
definitely
first 3
set
years,
that.
but he's going to break that.
He's definitely
he just
going
might
to break
not
that. I think he's 5.
It's 5. So
Yeah,
all he needs is 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's move on. You are watching X's and Omar, presented by Gulfstream Park. We are live here at Hallandale Beach. Come down here and join us, have a bite to eat. It is a gorgeous day. It's a gorgeous time of the year to be out here, outside, and it's just fantastic. And if you're coming off of a Dolphins loss, I can't think of a better way to just kind of find inner peace than sitting out here and looking at the Christmas tree
and drinking
some of the fountains and having multiple liquid refreshments. So, and
a cider.
A cider? You and your ciders, man. I don't even want to get there. Okay, so we have been fielding questions for weeks. Weeks.
Yes.
About whether or not TJ McDonald is going to change the whole defense here. And now finally we get to see him play in a game. Before he even played a game, while he was being suspended, the Dolphins signed him for a 4-year deal at $24 million.
Didn't agree with it.
Well, why didn't you agree with it?
Why was it necessary? Outside of you fearing him hitting free agency, are you certain that in half a year he's going to have that type of dynamic season that's going to merit a $6 million a year contract? And you haven't shown or proven that he can play well with Rashad Jones. Both of them are strong safeties. They're both in-the-box safeties. They're both physical blitzers, physical tacklers. But who plays center field? Who can cover a tight end? Neither have proven that they're very good at that. And now you have them playing playing together. While it might allow your defense to become a little bit more diverse in terms of offenses aren't going to be able to guess who's doing what, that back end, it could lead to some big plays. And right now, your secondary is not playing well. Opposing quarterbacks have 102.6 passer rating, cumulative. We've talked about this all season. It's an issue. You need to trim that down a little bit, trim some of the fat. Opposing quarterbacks are completing 69.9% of passes, which is top 5 in the NFL. Nearly 70% of every pass is being thrown is being completed. Yes, you can use better safety play, and TJ McDonald gives you the benefit of better safety play. But is that going to lead to more sacks? Is that going to lead to better coverage? Or is that going to lead to better tackling? Who knows? Because you've never seen him play with Rashad Jones.
Well, he's getting paid now, so
you're going to force it.
The answer to the question, how much will he change the defense, is we just don't know.
We don't know from this standpoint. My issue is you don't need to blitz more as a defense. Yeah, could you be effective more when you blitz? Certainly. And maybe TJ McDonald comes in and he blitzes and Rashad Jones is forced to play the free safety spot. Okay, great. But throughout the history of Rashad Jones' career, and let's not pretend like he hasn't been here since 2010, he's shown you that he's not a good free safety. He's not a good last line of defense guy because he bites on everything. Okay, well, when you don't have that center fielder back there hawking down balls, it could lead to big plays. And that, to me, is the biggest fear.
Like some guy named Holton having the biggest play of the game for the Raiders offense.
I mean, it happens.
Right.
They caught him with their pants down. Those things happen. Does it make me feel comfortable that it was on Rashad Jones? No. But when you see Rashad Jones play free safety, big plays happen to the Dolphins defense. And love Rashad. Think he's an impactful player. Think he's a top 5 safety. No, he's not a good free safety.
All right. Next question comes from Levon Kinsman. Well, let's take Levon's question. Should Ted Larson replace Jermon Bushrod instead of replacing Jesse Davis at left guard? We are seeing some changes to the Dolphins' offensive line this week with Larson coming in and also with them signing a new left tackle today.
Yeah. The Dolphins claimed Zach Stirrup from the Cleveland Browns. Not like the Browns have a good offense.
Sure.
But claimed them off the practice squad because Jawan James left the Oakland game with a hamstring injury. Jawan, their starting right tackle, looks like he's probably going to be shelved a week, maybe 2. I watched him coming out of the locker room. While he did not need crutches, the walk was not, didn't look like somebody who can play right away. It'll be interesting to see if he practices this week, or maybe they rest him this week, maybe practice him on Saturday, see if he could actually play in the game. But the Dolphins have to get a contingency plan. And to me, that contingency plan starts with Jesse Davis. He's a natural tackle, big physical guy. Yeah, you've got Sam Young there, but we all know what Sam Young is. If you have him start for an extended period of time, it's going to be bad for you. Jesse Davis can probably play that right tackle spot. And now that Ted Larsen is back and the hope and savior of the offensive line, his ideal spot was at left guard. If he practices all week and doesn't have any setbacks and shows that he can handle the conditioning of playing 50 snaps in this game, I think you start Ted Larsen at left guard and then maybe Jesse Davis at right tackle.
But just maybe what Levon was trying to get to in that question, the best Dolphins offensive line when James is healthy, is it with Jermon Bushrod or is it with Jesse Davis in the lineup?
I would need to see Ted Larsen play to tell you whether or not he's better than Jermon Bushrod. He's you know, and this is no disrespect to Ted Larsen, but he's probably the smaller, less impressive looking offensive lineman. Now, I watched him in training camp, and I was very skeptical at the very beginning of training camp. Watched him closely. You know how I love my line play. And I was like, this guy can play. Good. He's a guard that can get to the second level. When Jay Ajayi was making second level runs in training camp, it was runs through Ted Larsen's hole. So I'm intrigued to see what he brings to the table from a run blocking standpoint, and hopefully that can open up the offense for everybody. But I need to see him play before I can give you some real genuine feedback.
In other words,
it can't get any worse.
You're asking about McDonald and Larsen. We've kind of been saying it from the beginning. Hold off any hope on what these two guys can do until we actually see them out here, and finally we're going to see them out there. Next question is from Lee Richland. Is Isaac Asiata that bad that he can't crack this lineup?
I really don't look at it from a standpoint of, is he bad? Is he ready to play in an NFL game? No. If Jermon Bushrod goes down, would he be active the next week and probably start at the right guard spot? Yes. I don't think he's bad. I think he's being groomed specifically to play the right guard spot. And when that right guard spot opens up, whether it be because of an injury to Bushrod or whether it be because of Bushrod's declining play or whether it be because of next year he's penciled in as a starter, I think he'll play well. The problem is he going to be good enough as a pass protection standpoint? And I think that that's where the concern and hesitation is. And until he knows all of his assignments and knows how to pass off offensive linemen and knows how to identify blitzes, they don't feel comfortable in playing him, and it's a redshirt year for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's a running back. You know, if he makes one bad play, it's the play that could cost the Dolphins the game. It's tough.
Definitely.
All right, next, let's talk about the game. All right, so it's Monday Night Football, extra day to prepare. No practice today for the Dolphins. They're taking the day off. And they play the Carolina Panthers, kind of a surprising team. They lost their most prolific pass catcher in Greg Olsen, who for a lot of the season with an injury, and they just traded away their next most prolific pass catcher in Kelvin Benjamin, a couple of South Florida guys there too. And now they're still, though, 6-3 and one of the better teams in the NFC. How is this offense doing it?
Cam Newton, baby. Cam Newton had an MVP. Did he win MVP?
Yep, 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. They had a dip. You know, every team in their division plays well.
Dips.
Dips.
It's weird how that happens.
It's weird how that division is like that. However, Cam Newton, yes, he's got an 87.4 passer rating, which isn't very impressive. If you're Jay Cutler, you're probably laughing at that. But Cam Newton is also their leading rusher. He's a very dynamic dual threat back. And notice I didn't say quarterback.
You said back, right?
Back. He's a threat running the football. Containment is going to be a major issue. And if you are struggling at the ends, which the Dolphins are because of injury, hopefully William Hayes, who you know is one of my favorite guys, gets healthy with this rest. I wouldn't practice him all week trying to get him to game day. And Andre Branch, same thing. Wouldn't practice him all week trying to get him to game day because edge setting and containment is going to be critical and important. If you cannot set the edge against Cam Newton, you have no chance. And we all know Cam Wake has had his issues setting the edge over the years. We all know that Charles Harris is not that great at setting the edge over the years. This game, to me, is on William Hayes and Andre Branch, because if you don't set that edge, those linebackers are going to be toast.
What do you think about the rest of the Panthers' weapons?
You know, the biggest guy that intrigues me is Christian McCaffrey. He's getting more of the load in terms of passes thrown to him. 72 targets, which leads the team. And it's not like he's an every down player.
Right.
So when he comes to the game, you better ID him and you better go after him. So to me, that's the biggest element and issue that the Dolphins have to worry about. The running of Cam Newton and the passes that are going to be thrown to Christian McCaffrey and his ability to create yards after catch.
We saw sometimes how a team can take advantage of the linebackers' ability to stop passes, as Jared Cook just
New Orleans
destroyed
Yeah.
The Dolphins linebackers last
Well,
week.
that was tight end, but New
But it's still
Orleans,
kind of the same idea. You've got a linebacker that's on those guys.
this defense is built to have the linebackers cover one-on-one with no help, and sometimes you get beat. Jared Cook's a very athletic, ran a 4.2, I believe. I mean 4.4, I believe. Can Kiko Alonso hang with him? Yes. Can Kiko Alonso hang with him every single play, especially in plays that are designed to get him matched up one-on-one? No. These guys get paid in the NFL too. You're going to lose some. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. My concern is losing against Christian McCaffrey.
All right. Next question comes from Sheldon. What are some of the early keys to the game against the Panthers?
Well, we talked about the edge setting against Cam Newton. We talked about containing the back against Christian McCaffrey. I think the third is protecting the quarterback. Julius Peppers. You know, he's been in the league for, what, 17 years?
He's incredible. He's still playing at a high level. I did a couple weeks ago when I was in Baltimore, I was doing lots of stories about Cam Wake. And I said, oh, Cam's got to be the oldest guy in the top 10 in sacks in the NFL. Nope. Julius Peppers had a sack and a half more than him.
7.5 on the season. He went to Carolina to retire, to go back to Tar Heel home.
Yeah.
And this guy's having a dynamic season. He's showing you that he's a better fit in a 4-3 scheme as opposed to Green Bay's 3-4 scheme. And I think that he is really going to be a threat, especially if Jawan James isn't playing. It's going to be feast or famine. And then they've got Mario Adderson or something like that on the other side. It's going to be an issue where you got to focus on protecting your quarterback, and maybe it might require a little bit of max protection.
So what kind of performance are you going to expect to see on Monday night for this Dolphins team? Now they've lost 2 straight. It's beginning to feel a little bit more like you don't want to fall under 500. You got to win this one.
Yeah.
But it's prime time on the road against a good team.
I think that the matchups and the fact that you aren't at home is going to be a challenge for Miami. Cam Newton, the dual threat quarterbacks have always given the Dolphins trouble just because they can cheat and get you a first down. They can cheat and rush for touchdowns. Cam Newton loves rushing for touchdowns, spiking balls on players. Spiking balls on players. I think I'm going to predict a Carolina win, 28-21.
All right.
Cam Newton's just a little bit too much this season.
All right, and I'm taking the Panthers as well, 26-21. But the game season's not over yet. Season is not over yet, even with that loss that we think might be coming on Monday night, and then the Patriots.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
They kind of do need to win this one, don't
Absolutely, or it could be 4 straight. But here's my thought. Adam Gase, no matter how bad it gets, he's able to rally the troops and get them to refocus. And I think after these next 2 games, even if they go on a 4-game losing streak, they will rebound.
All right. That's what we think is going to happen.
Oh, actually, Tampa Bay's next.
That's true. It's Tampa, and then, all right.
The bye threw me off.
So they can come back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, Tampa Bay's only got 2 wins.
They're not good, and it might be getting against Ryan Fitzpatrick.
And Jameis Winston's not going to be playing because of that arm.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that next week. Hopefully it's after a Dolphins win in Carolina on Monday night. If you're watching live, hang tight. We're going to do some X's and Omar overtime, answer the questions that you've been sending us on Twitter using the hashtag XOmar. And also make sure that you download the X's and Omar podcast if you don't want to see our faces and rather would just listen to us in the car or on the road or during a run or during a workout.
I think my face is pretty. I hope so.
No one's surprised you said that.
You're
Omar.
on TV, so your face has to be
I have no choice. All right. Thank you so much for watching X's and Omar. We'll be back next week. Welcome to X and Omar Overtime. All the questions that you've been sending us during the show, it's time for us to answer them here, live, on the spot. We haven't looked at them yet. I'm going to fire them at Omar as soon as we read them. You want to start off?
Yeah, let me start off with a question from Fernando in the Dolphins chat on the Sun Sentinel page.
Sure.
How could we get both Drake and Williams on the field at the same time in a series? And to me, it's very simple and very easy. Twin backfield.
Sure.
One of them goes into motion. One of them goes out on the boundary as a receiver. Both Drake and Damian Williams have done that very effectively throughout their career. However, I don't really see the benefit of that. I don't really think it makes sense just because you've got a wide receiver who's probably going to be covered by a cornerback.
Right.
Or maybe they'll choose to put a linebacker in the game. But I think if you put twin running backs in the game, I'm sticking with my nickel package. And
that seems to make sense, yeah.
And I'm going to have a cornerback cover one of them.
All right, fair enough. Let's take a question from Aon.
Now, you can move. No, you can't put both two in motion.
No.
You can do an empty backfield set. Too much technical talk. Let's go.
Yeah, I guess that would be the question: is why would you put the two of them out there?
Nah, I just don't see. I don't see a package that makes sense. Yeah, the backs are always a check down option. You don't want two check down options on a field.
Right. All right, Aon, should we expect worse defensive line play at home games due to the grass conditions at Hard Rock Stadium? Can we talk about the grass?
You know, let's talk about the grass because this grass is important, and this issue has been an issue for the Dolphins. I believe Tom Garfinkel, and I don't want to speak out of turn, has changed the grass at the stadium 4 times this year.
Yeah.
They changed it right after the Dolphins and the Hurricanes played back-to-back games. The problem is the grass doesn't have time to get its rooting, its footing, its rooting, and the grass is having sun exposure problems because of the little covering that's keeping the fans shaded, but it's also keeping the field shaded. And right now, they've got grow lights out there, but it's still not effective enough. I don't know what they're going to need to do because the stadium is not getting enough sun exposure, but I think just because of the expense of consistently changing the grass, and then there are going to be games and weeks where you play back-to-back games with the Hurricanes and the Dolphins, it's becoming an issue. Mm-hmm. And they've changed the type of grass that they put out there. They've tried everything. And I'm talking, this is $1 million investment to try to get the footing right. Maybe they need to do more research on cleats. So maybe they have the favorable cleats and the opponents don't have the favorable cleats. I don't know what's going to solve this problem. I've heard that if you go to artificial turf, it's going to raise the temperature level of the field. That could potentially benefit the Dolphins, but then it could also lead to more injuries. So I don't know what the solution is. But I guarantee you one thing. Steve Ross is a spare no expense owner.
Right.
And if he has to change the grass every week, he's going to change the grass every week.
Yeah, that's right. If that's what it takes. Don't want to make it too hot out there. I guess that makes sense. I never really thought about it that way. But it does get it does get very warm out there on top of the turf on any day. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. It's all the rubber in there.
Yeah, the rubber, it heats up. So it's not an ideal situation for South Florida climates. However, they've tried different kinds of grass. They felt like they had a bad batch of grass, so they changed it one time. It's becoming a real issue, and unfortunately, there's no easy fix to it. Mm-hmm. You want your shade, it's going to impact your grass. Which one do fans care about more?
That makes a lot of sense. All right, Christian asked a lot of questions. Let's take, why doesn't Kenny Stills get the ball with Jay Cutler under center as compared to Matt Moore?
I don't think it's a quarterback situation. I think it's a big play situation, and your quarterback has to be comfortable in terms of the protection to do the big play. Adam Gase says he's calling them, but they don't have the time, or the quarterback isn't comfortable to throw it and execute it. I think they will come in time with better protection.
All right. Next question. Let's see.
Eric Cotton asked, will Miami finally get their first rushing TD this week? I have a hard time believing it. It's going to happen from this standpoint. I think the Panthers defense is very good. I think they've got I think if you're going to attack them, you're going to attack them at their cornerback position. So to me, as long as you remain efficient in the red zone, I don't really see an issue with the problems that you're having. in terms of, yes, is it embarrassing that back hasn't rushed for a touchdown all season?
Yeah.
It is. But if you weren't converting 70% of your red zone opportunities, let me make sure I know that number for certain. It's not actually on this sheet, but if you weren't converting at a high level in the red zone, it'd be more of an issue for me.
It doesn't seem like a huge issue if
Nah.
they're scoring the touchdowns, but they're not getting into the red zone. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Frank, will they restructure Sue's contract to help with the salary cap?
No. Sue is a businessman. His history throughout his career has shown that he makes businessman decisions. If you want to change the amount of money that he makes, release him. Let him go to the open market. Would Sue get the same kind of money from another team? Probably not. But is it a risk you really want to take? Sue is
No,
settled
yeah.
in down here. I personally believe that Sue is putting together a Hall of Fame career. If I'm the Dolphins, I want Sue going into the Hall of Fame with a Dolphins jersey on, with a Dolphins helmet on. So I'm going to make it work for at least another season. Then when he's aged, then when we see the level of production, I'll revisit the contract situation. But if you remove Sue from the Dolphins defense, it completely changes the Dolphins defense. And let's not pretend like you've got 2 quality defensive tackles to replace.
Ooh, 1, yeah. Okay. Let's see. We've talked a lot about Larson and
Here's
McDonald.
a question from Joshua Sanders. Do you see the Dolphins drafting a guard in the first round or a running back? The Dolphins do not have a high opinion of guards in terms of their value, neither do I. Yes, I've advocated for the selection of guards in the early rounds. I'm guilty. A lot of those guards are game changers, difference makers. But I think it's about taking the best player in the early rounds. And I do believe the Dolphins will have a top 17 pick in this year's draft. And I don't see a guard being a top 17 selection. Maybe a running back. I really haven't evaluated it. But I think that you need to improve your team from a defensive standpoint moving forward, selecting more impactful players, especially when
On
you know,
defense?
On defense.
Okay.
I do believe that. I believe that you need to fortify your defensive line some more. William Hayes is over 30. Cameron Wake is over 30. And Ndamukong Suh is in his 30s. Andre Branch is approaching his 30s.
Yeah.
Let's keep that in mind. And this team is built around defense. It is. This leads to your success.
I mean, really, depth everywhere. I mean, depth literally everywhere.
What do you mean?
Needs help.
Yeah. I think that your biggest issue right now is you need a tight end. You need a really game-changing tight end.
You think that's the biggest need for the Dolphins?
If I'm gonna go with a draft pick, and I don't know what's out there.
Everything being equal, you say I want a tight end.
Yeah, I think if you ask me, I think Kenyon Drake could have a good career as a starting tailback. I think they've got 3 quality receivers. If Jarvis Landry is retained, you're good. And if Jarvis Landry leaves, you can go get a slot receiver in the later rounds. Offensive line, certainly it needs to be fortified. But you've invested 3 first-round picks in it already. I'm not sure about Juwan James. He might not be here after the season because they've got a 5th-year option. They might not choose. Juwan James, $7 million. Juwan James, $7 million.
Right.
I'm going with $7 million. So certainly you're going to have to fortify your offensive line. But you can do that in rounds 2, rounds 3, rounds 4. I'll take a tight end and 3 offensive linemen.
Okay. What about, I think I would be interested in drafting the next Lawrence Simmons. Because to see how much of an impact that he has had on this defense and generally up until the past 2 weeks on this run defense.
Yeah.
And knowing how old he is and knowing he probably can't continue at that
He's a
level.
durable guy, though, except he could
Until he gets hurt. He's a durable guy until he's done or it's gone.
Yeah. I see your point.
I would lean towards that, I think.
But what about Raekwon McMillan?
You probably need more than one guy. You need 3 of them.
Stephon Anthony, you just traded him. Wow, a laugh on Stephon Anthony? He's been active 1 game.
He's been active 1 game. Did he?
He's been active 1
All right. What else we got?
He's a former first-round pick.
Daniel. Last season, Vance Joseph would drop D linemen into coverage at
That was a
times,
good one.
which took quarterbacks off guard and resulted in some interceptions. Should Burke bring this back to help generate more turnovers for this defense?
Daniel asked that question, and I did respond to him on Twitter. Burke drops more defensive linemen than Vance Joseph did. I think it's a very intriguing element of their offense, of their defense, and it does keep offensive players off balance, but you can't do it 15 times a game.
Right.
It only works 3 or 4 times.
Right.
So and I think that Matt Bird does it a lot. I really do believe that he does it more than Vance Joseph did.
Any concern about the lack of forced turnovers? I mean, this is a team that really made a lot of turnovers happen last year. It hasn't happened this year.
Turnovers come in bunches.
Yeah.
I've been programmed to believe that, so I say it. I think that it would start with tighter coverage. I don't think you're getting as tight coverage as you possibly would have liked. I think the cornerback play has been very solid, but are they in position to get? It's not like they're dropping a lot. Nate Allen's probably the only guy who's dropped interceptions. So now that Nate Allen is not there and TJ McDonald's back there, hopefully he has the range to cover. But turnovers, I just don't see turnovers being a big part of this defense because they're one-on-one based. And a lot of times when you're one-on-one based, you're not in zone and you're not identifying and looking at the quarterback. I think they're more of a forced fumble kind of team.
I'll be honest, this last game sort of threw me for a loop. I thought that...
I told you Oakland was better than you think.
I'm still not sure they are.
They are.
I'm still not sure that they are.
Their weaknesses, I said to you, the weaknesses of the Oakland Raiders is their linebacking play. I said you couldn't exploit them with the tight end. I was wrong. Julius Thomas had his best game. And your backs don't catch passes. Well, I was wrong.
Sure.
Dolphins' backs started catching passes. To me, that convinces me that coaching knows what they're doing. Can they maximize their strengths as opposed to the opponent's weaknesses? You just didn't have enough. Too many penalties against Oakland. But I swear to you, Oakland's a better team than what they played. I watched them on film, and I was like, damn, that's a good team. They just turned the ball over. And if you could take care of the ball, they've got a chance to be good. They're just off to a very bad start. It's unpredictable in the NFL.
It surely is. All right.
Unpredictable.
Any questions from here in the... Yes.
With Case and Tannenbaum, do you see a championship in the next 3 years?
Like a Super Bowl championship?
Well, even a competitive?
Okay, so the question is, with Gase and Tannenbaum specifically, do you see a championship in the next 3 years? Or being in contention for one?
No. Teams work in 3-year resets. This is year 2. Next year is supposed to be a pivot year. I really don't think the Dolphins are in position to pivot on anything next year, unfortunately. And to make that happen, you'd have to really invest a lot in free agents. I don't see the free agents there. I don't see the free agents there, nor do I see the money there. And truth be told, if there's one knock on Mike Tannenbaum throughout his career as an executive, he runs you into cap hell.
Yeah.
And we're on that track right now. And in 2 years, you will be in cap hell. So how do you address that? The only way to address that is to trim the fat and cut players like Ndamukong Suh, cut like Mike Pouncey, like eventually Rashad Jones. Well, you cut players like that, it waters down your talent base. And your talent development has to be good. I think the talent development is just adequate. So do I see the Dolphins being a contender without a contending quarterback? No.
How's that for your answer your question? So all sorts of...
But there,
Thank you for clarifying.
here's my problem with the NFL, and this is what people don't really get. In the NFL, there are 6 Super Bowl contenders, 6 really bad teams, and then everybody else is 500 or hovering around it.
Right.
Dolphins are always in that 500 or hovering around it pack. How do you get up here? Generally takes an elite quarterback.
Exactly.
Either you have to have the coach to develop that elite quarterback, or that elite quarterback just has to be there. Is Ryan Tannehill an elite quarterback? Arguments, the proof is not there.
Right.
Can Adam Gase develop him into being an elite quarterback? That's your only hope.
Let's talk. Look at the teams that have been our typical year contenders. Tom Brady and the Patriots. Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers.
Seattle.
Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay.
Seattle.
Russell Wilson and Seattle. These are the same teams year after year after year. And the teams that are trying to find a quarterback, unless you're lucky
You
and
get lucky.
Peyton Manning at the end of his
You
career,
get
like
lucky
Denver
sometimes.
did.
Carolina got lucky. Carolina
They
got
didn't win.
lucky.
Yeah, I mean,
Saints.
The Saints, they're hot right now, baby, but they got a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So, you'll see. We'll see. You either need quarterback play to be Kansas City. You need to happen. You know how Kansas City got good? They got their defensive players back from injury, and Kareem Hunt. Just all of a sudden, the back out of nowhere is the best back in the NFL. You need that luck to happen to you.
But that being said,
It happened to
they're
you last year.
now 6-3. And
Yeah.
does anyone truly believe Kansas City is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
If they get past the Patriots, anybody's game. Who gets past the Patriots?
Who gets past the Patriots? All right. Thank you so much.
It happens.
It happens. Thank you so much for watching this week's edition of X's and Omar presented by Gulfstream Park. We'll be back next week to talk about the Bucs and hopefully what was a big Monday night game against Carolina. Thanks for watching.